Key messages on resuming Johnson & Johnson vaccine. On April 23rd, CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices met to review vaccine safety data on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. They voted to resume using the vaccine for all adults. The use of the vaccine was paused on April 13th after some cases of an extremely rare type of blood clot were reported in people who had received the vaccine. The data showed that the benefits of this vaccine outweigh the very small risk. People, especially women younger than 50 years old, should be aware of the rare but increased risk of this adverse event. This announcement is good news for Minnesotans and underscores the importance that is placed on vaccine safety. The pause allowed time for experts to review the data and help make providers and patients aware of the risk so it can be factored into the decision making. The resumption adds to the number of available vaccines against COVID-19 for Minnesotans. Providers now have information they need about this rare event, how to recognize it, and how to effectively treat it. Providers have some doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccine on hand that have been distributed before the pause. Providers can begin using that vaccine now. We continue to encourage people to get whatever vaccine is available to them. Americans are fortunate to have 3 safe and effective vaccines that are helping to get us closer to the end of this pandemic. What happens next? On April 23rd, CDC and FDA recommended that Johnson & Johnson vaccine start to be used again for all adults. The pause allowed time to review data and information to prepare healthcare providers to recognize and diagnose patients, treat them appropriately, and report cases that may be related to the vaccine. This condition is treatable, but doctors must know how to recognize it, how to report it, and how to treat it. This pause ensured that can happen. We will update our information and guidance with the official recommendations from CDC. The FDA has updated their fact sheet for providers and patients about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and to watch for symptoms of this rare clotting syndrome. Providers can start using the vaccine again once they have reviewed the updated EUA fact sheet for providers and are prepared to provide the updated fact sheet for patients. Orders for Johnson & Johnson vaccine will resume the week of April 26th. Watch for more information about making appointments for Johnson & Johnson vaccine. What does the public need to know? This announcement is good news for Minnesotans and underscores the importance that is placed on vaccine safety. We continue to encourage people to get whatever vaccine is available to them, and that will once again include Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Americans are fortunate to have 3 safe and effective vaccines that are helping get us closer to the end of this pandemic. To bring that end even closer, it is very important that all eligible Minnesotans get vaccinated. All three vaccines protect you from COVID-19, but they do much more than that. They also protect your family, your friends, and your community. They get us closer to the day when we are able to do all those things we've missed over the last year plus. Reports of adverse events following the use of Johnson & Johnson vaccine suggested an increased risk of rare adverse event called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome, TTS. Nearly all reports of this serious condition, which involves blood clots with low platelets, have been in adult women younger than 50 years old. This adverse event is rare, occurring at a rate of about 7 per 1 million vaccinated women between 18 and 49 years old. For women 50 years and older and men of all ages, this adverse event is even more rare. People, especially young women under 50 years old, should be aware of the rare but increased risk of this adverse event, and that there are other COVID-19 vaccine options available for which this risk has not been seen. Talk to your healthcare provider if you have questions. What should you know if you already received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine or want to in the future? If you received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine more than a month ago, you are unlikely to develop this related condition. Contact your healthcare provider if you have concerns. If you have received the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine in the last few weeks, you should know and be aware of symptoms that occur if clotting develops. Symptoms are likely to occur between 6 days and up to 3 weeks after vaccination and include severe headache, blurred vision, abdominal pain that doesn't go away, leg swelling, bruising easily, shortness of breath. Contact your healthcare provider or go to the emergency room or urgent care if you develop one or more of these symptoms. Let your healthcare provider know that you recently received Johnson & Johnson vaccine. If you experience any adverse events after vaccination, report them to vSafe and the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. The FDA fact sheet for patients has been updated, and your healthcare provider will be able to help discuss the risks and benefits of the vaccine. What is the health department doing? We are committed to safety and are following CDC and FDA guidelines. We will continue to monitor the recommendations and share information with Minnesotans and providers. More information will be shared with clinicians, state officials, pharmacies, and other partners about current CDC recommendations for vaccination and how to recognize and treat this rare blood clot disorder. What is your message to people who may be concerned about receiving a vaccine? Healthcare providers and public health officials at all levels share a commitment to vaccine safety and effectiveness. The recommendation to temporarily pause the use of Johnson & Johnson vaccine from CDC and FDA is a powerful sign of just how strong that safety commitment is. The available vaccines for COVID-19 were shown to be highly effective and safe in clinical trials, and the evidence from real-world use backs that up. The clot issue reported with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine showed up in less than 7 million in 1 million women aged 18 to 49 years vaccinated with that vaccine. But officials wanted to pause and make sure doctors and others knew to look out for even such a rare occurrence. All that said, it is natural to have questions about any medical issue, including vaccines. One of the best things to do with those questions is to talk to a trusted expert, like your primary care doctor or other healthcare provider. They can share information and help you put that information into the context of your own life and circumstances. Why did health officials pause the use of Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Health officials at all levels share a commitment to vaccine safety and effectiveness. The pause was recommended in order for scientists to further evaluate reports of a rare and severe type of clotting syndrome called thrombosis with thrombocytopenia, TTS. That pause was recommended after 6 cases were identified. As of April 21st, 15 cases of TTS have been identified, including the original 6, from the vaccine safety surveillance system. While the risk posed from COVID-19 infection far exceeds the risk of the clot issue they found, they brought that information to healthcare providers and the public as soon as possible. They also called for a temporary pause in the use of Johnson & Johnson vaccine while they share information with healthcare providers and determine what other steps should be taken to respond. What should people do if they had an appointment to receive this vaccine? Anyone who had an appointment to receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine before the pause should have received a notification from their provider about canceling, postponing, or rescheduling the appointment. You can now seek an appointment to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Watch for further communications from your provider, or you can look for other vaccine appointments through your local pharmacy. The Find Vaccine Locations map, and the Vaccine Connector.